It is Sunday the 3rd of January 2021. I'm in our main field and I'm collecting 4 fence posts. Here we go, 4 of these. There's leftovers from when we were doing the fencing for the paddocks for the goats and the sheep. But the reason we need them is because we are going to move some of our ducks from the duck run to a new run that we're building on our far side plot. The problem we have at the moment is that the DEFRA restrictions require us all to have our poultry in lockdown, so they've all got to be caged because of the problem of avian flu. Migratory birds bring it in, they can easily mix with free-range birds and so on, and therefore you can get into the domestic flock. So that's the reason behind it. So we're all required to follow the rules. This is not optional, it is a requirement. The fence posts we are going to be using as part of a new run that we will be building this afternoon. Right, this is the polytunnel that we've put up on the far side plot, and the problem is it's a lot smaller than I remembered it. So the reason why we got the fence posts was to extend this area here to be part of the duck run as well. So we're going to net the whole of this area, so the netting will go over the polytunnel and then tail off over here where David is, and that will just about treble the space that we've got here for the ducks that we'll put into this run. A few days ago we were starting to build a new duck run on our far side plot so that we could reduce the numbers that we've got in the duck run that we've got on our near side plot, because we decided that they were just getting too muddy, it wasn't good for their welfare, too crowded. So we have at last managed to finish building the duck run, the new duck run, and it is much bigger than we originally set out to create, which is good, nice and roomy for them. And we have just introduced 8 ducks to the run, and a couple more will come over in the near future. So we've sunk into a ground this box and filled it with water, and they are loving it as a bath. But just pan out, so the run covers from the bottom there, polytunnel frame in the middle, and then this end of the run here. As you can see, we've had a bit of snow recently, and we've got a little shed for them there, which they will have to go in each evening, because my guess is that foxes could reasonably easily get through this netting. Back to the pond, and they've obviously spilt lots of the water, but they are having rather a good time. And this is the back of the duck run, so as you can see, lots of space for them. The occasional cabbage there still growing for them, which won't last long. And there they are on the water. So that paddling pool there we bought specially, and we'll fill that up tomorrow. Certainly having a good clean. Up on our main field now, and in one of the shelters that we got up here, and it's got one of our sheep in it. This is Edna, who is our oldest sheep. She is actually quite elderly, but she's due to lamb in the next couple of weeks. So when I got here to do my daily check this morning, I found that she didn't want to move from the goat house here, and I found my friend Jo, who gave us the sheep, and asked her about it. And she said, well, she's getting elderly, she's getting on, she'd be very tired, and when she lambs, we're going to have to basically look after the lambs for her, which we were expecting to do anyway. But she hadn't got up. She didn't want to, and Jo said, yeah, she's done that before. It's just her age now. So we're keeping an eye on her, and we've just come up again to check on her. She seems fine. She has actually moved a bit, but we're giving her much more bedding. So our lovely hay is being used for bedding, but she's eating well. She's got no problem with eating. It is Friday the 8th of January 2021. As you can see, it's snowing. Well, I guess I could say it is winter, so what do you expect? Well, normally we don't expect snow in our winters now. I think they went out years ago. But suddenly, occasionally, we'll get a bit of a snowstorm. And this one overnight has caused us quite a bit of damage. So this is our older duck run, and as you can see, the snow has accumulated on the netting over it, and it's pulled over the fence post, and we can't really do anything with this until it's all melted. So we shall have to wait a few days before we can fix this. Fortunately, the ducks are all still in, so they can't get out. But this is not helpful. We've got a similar problem with the duckling run, where we keep the call ducks down there. So not so much damage with this one though, but the fence posts are going to have to be leaned up again. Unfortunately, it looks as though the snow is not letting up for the time being. So I've got to go and check on our far side plot now, where I know we've already got lots of snow damage, similar to what we have here, and then I've got to go and check on the sheep. So this is our new duck run on the far side plot. As you can see, we've had the same problem, although we've managed to clear the snow from the netting. But once the snow's stopped and melted, we'll have to dig the posts back in, maybe try and buttress them as well. But we've got in here 4 of our Rhode Island Reds as well, so I suspect they're going to be in the shelter. Yes, they are. We're not able to see them in these conditions. As you can see, we've just got to the sheep shelter on the main field, and Edna is still here and just giving her some hay, and she's quite happily chomping her way through it. And again, she's moved to a different part of the shelter since yesterday, so she's moving around. She's just that she will not get up and walk about. I think she's just too tired and old for that. So yeah, the other 4 sheep. Looks as though 2 or 3 of them have been out in the snow rather than using the shelter, but that's their choice. But there's not much grazing today, because if you look around, it's covered in snow. Everything's white. So extra hay today, and as you can see, they're rather enjoying it. It is Thursday the 14th of January 2021. Bit of bad news. Came up to check on the sheep, and Edna has been not too well for the past week and a half, but she'd had a noticeable deterioration yesterday, and sadly found her dead in the shelter just a few minutes ago. So we're having to deal with all this snow. So I also came up to not just check on the sheep, but to feed them as well. So we've just got the 4 now. Edna was very elderly. She was approaching 13 years old, so she had outlived just about every other sheep on the planet, I think. But sadly, she's gone now. So you can see a reasonable amount of snow. So we're making sure that the sheep have a good feed and using up our hay stocks. We bought 3 big round bales of hay in the autumn, and we're now through 2 of them. So we've actually ordered more and ordered straw for bedding as well. So we'll get 3 more bales of hay and 1 of straw. It is Wednesday, the 20th of January 2021. Last week we had the snow. Can't remember the name that they gave to the storm, but nevertheless we had lots of snow, caused lots of damage to our duck runs, and we had to get them repaired over the weekend. So I'll show you a few shots of them in a minute. What we've got here, I'm on our far side plot, and we've got in the duck run that we've built here, we've got at the moment 6 ducks. There was 7 this morning, but we took 1 out because she was rather mucky, so we've taken her home to get her cleaned up, so she'll come back here soon. But I've just filled a paddling pool for them, and they are rather enjoying it. So they've also got that box that's sunk into the ground as well. Now in this run we've also got our 4 older Rhode Island Reds. Sorry, I'm getting splashed here. He's having a hell of a time there. There's that one. But we've got our 4 Rhode Island Reds in here as well. But what we're going to do with this pen, or this run, is actually make it permanent. So we'll be concreting the posts in to the ground. At the minute, as you can see, they've some of them tipped over in the snow. The snow gathered on the netting and just dragged them over. So it's still secure. But we're going to create this as or keep this as a permanent run, and I'll explain why in a moment. The reason we're doing that is because we have a number of cockerels now which were hatched last year, and they're starting to mature, and there's various different breeds, so we want to be able to separate out the cockerels so that they are with the hens from their same breed, so that we can gather the eggs for hatching, so they'll therefore be purebred, and therefore we're just going to need more runs to be able to do that. So hence the reason why this is actually going to become permanent. The ducks that are in this run will eventually go back to our near side site where we have all the other ducks and most of our chickens. But only after the government has ended the restrictions requiring all poultry to be caged. Hence the reason why they're in here at the moment. And we've been in the poultry lockdown for a month now, over a month. And there's no sign of it ending at the moment. We've not heard anything. And I know all the poultry keepers keep asking the question. But at the minute we just don't know when the lockdown's going to end, so hopefully within the next few weeks but I've heard people talking about it going on to March or even April, which is quite worrying. Well, I've been home. My hat was absolutely soaking, so I've changed it to my cloth cap. But it is tipping it down, and we're in the middle of Storm Christoph. So the place is just wall-to-wall mud everywhere. Fortunately, the hens have got things like the greenhouse that they're in here, so that's nice and dry. Ducks are enjoying it. You hear the call ducks making as much racket as they can. But this is what I'm next to now, is our main duck run, and that got really hammered by the snow last week. Dragged over all these fence posts, and the netting on top would just collapse down into the pond, and of course it froze into the pond, so we couldn't do anything with it until it all defrosted. And of course now we've got the problem of just the rain everywhere. But we rebuilt this over the weekend, or mainly on Sunday. So again, I think what we'll end up having to do is, well, this has been a permanent construction for a few years, but we need to rebuild it so that the posts are concreted in, and we can give a stronger netting roof to it than this nylon netting that we've got at the moment. The ducks, however, do appear to be enjoying the rain, and we've actually got a stream running through the duck run, and as you can see, it's all pouring out down to the bottom here. So we're expecting this rain to continue for some time, and frankly we really could do without this. It is Thursday, the 21st of January 2021. I'm up on the small holding, surrounded by snow. So Storm Christoph has turned from torrential rain into snow. Joy. It's already caused a bit of damage to the duck runs, to the fencing and netting around them. Not as bad as it did over a week ago. Small blessings. Anyway, one of the reasons we are now calling up to the small holding twice a day is to check on the sheep, because certainly one of them is, we think, quite close to giving birth. The ewe that we think is getting close is the one on the left. That is Ethel. As you can see, she is a fair size. So, they're all chomping away on the hay that I've given them at the minute. But you can be able to see the snow. Not too much, thankfully, and it's already started to thaw. But I really could have done without it. It is Friday the 22nd of January 2021 when I arrived this morning to check on the sheep and to see how Ethel is doing. She's the ewe that's probably the most advanced and is not far off giving birth. But when I got there, she wasn't looking too well. She was actually vomiting, lying down, not really interested in getting up. So I went off to feed the other sheep, and then made a phone call to Joe, who's my friend who actually gave us the sheep in the first place, and we then had a discussion about what likely causes are, and then she said she'd come down, so I waited down at the bottom of the small holding for her. By the time she got here, Ethel had got up and was wandering around her paddock, because we've put her in our own paddock for the time being. So Joe had a look at her, thinks that might actually be a bit of undernourishment, because the grass for grazing at the moment is not the best quality. And when I got home, I phoned the vet, and he said exactly the same. Not the best quality grass around at the moment, because the winter has been so poor. So we're feeding them, all the goats now, an extra feed, a hard feed that we have to buy, sadly, but it's going to boost their sugar intake, their glucose intake, because we've added a bit of molasses to it as well, which we had bought in the summer last year for one of our goats who was a bit thin and needed to put on a bit of weight. So I've just come back now in the afternoon to check on how they are doing. So this is Ethel, and she was, just a moment ago, eating from her bowl of feed there, and she's back at it. So want to make sure that she's got sufficient calories in her to produce the milk, fill up her milk sacks, and to get some extra weight back onto her, and also to be able to ensure that there is a healthy baby. Joe thinks that she's just carrying the one, so I bow to her greater judgment on this, because we have not kept sheep before, so she looks big to me, but looks though it's just the one. It is Wednesday the 27th of January 2021. Haven't quite had sleepless nights about this, but I have been concerned about Ethel over the last few days. Now, she was sick last week, and she then seemed to settle down, but we couldn't get her to eat any of the course meal that we've bought for them. So that's her there, and as you can see, she's eating the grass, not that there's much left of it now. And our friend Joe, who gave us the sheep, she came over and had a look at her and decided that the problem is that the grass just isn't giving them sufficient nutrition, but we just haven't been able to get her to eat the coarse feed that has quite a bit of molasses in, so there's lots of sugars in there that they need for supporting the babies and bagging out their udders. So we've kind of had our ups and downs with her, and on Sunday we were on a bit of a downer because I was really concerned about her. She just didn't seem to be interested in eating anything at all. So we called out the vet, and she confirmed what Joe had told us, which is that she is not getting enough nourishment from the grass, and said that we need to give her 50 mils of a glucose drench twice a day, so first thing in the morning and in the evening, to get her energy levels up. So we started doing that, and I said to the vet, how long will it be before she starts eating? And she said, well, it could be as short as 2 hours. Well, 2 hours went by and she wasn't showing any signs of eating, and I thought, oh, this is really worrying. And we gave her glucose drench for that evening, and on Monday we came back and I was quite concerned about her, but when I saw her, she had been moving around and she seemed to be interested again in eating the grass. So grass eating Ethel gave me an idea, and I checked out these clumps. This is typical of the clumps of grass that we have on the field at the moment. The top of them is at no use, no nutritional value, because it's all dead. But underneath that dead grass on the top is something much more nutritious. So you can see here, this is the stems of the grass, goes right down to the root. Top end, pretty, well, there's a bit of greenery there, but not a great deal. And those stems contain the energy that the plant needs to start growing in the spring. And of course, that energy is just what Ethel needs to be eating. And we discovered that she actually rather likes eating the stalks on these. So we've been feeding these to her in the absence of the course meal. There you go, Petal. Put it down there for you. So she quite happily eats that stuff, which is useful because that is now, other than the glucose that we give her twice a day, we'll continue doing that to give her it until the bottle that we have is run out. But the grass there, the stems, she is eating, so that is her main source of sugars and nourishment, and as you can see, she does rather like them. It's not necessarily problem solved at the minute. We need to keep an eye on her for the next few days. Our thought was that last week she was getting ready to give birth because she'd isolated herself, but then we think that actually she isolated herself because she wasn't too well, and therefore we need to just sort of keep a general eye on her, but we don't expect her to have her babies, not in the next few days at any rate. So we just continue monitoring her. But our goats, however, they are, or certainly one of them is looking as if she's ready to go into labour. So we're back here on the goat paddock, and this is Perky. He's had the job of getting the girls pregnant this time round, and this is Spot. She's our oldest goat now, and she has had 4 births with us, so she's quite an experienced mum, and she is very pregnant. And yesterday we thought she was about to go because she had a mucus discharge from her vagina, and she had isolated herself in this lean-to shed from the other goats, and that was at about 5 o'clock when I did the lock-up. Came back at 7:30 and she was still isolated, but no sign of any babies. Likewise 10 o'clock, midnight, and then I came along at 4 o'clock in the morning, and she was still well settled, but this time she had been joined by Perky, so she wasn't exhibiting any of the other signs that you would expect from a nanny that's about to give birth. So she's not been pawing the ground, she's not been bleating to the babies. So we think we just got it wrong last night, which is great because I just love getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But we still think she's close, but not as close as to need some 3 or 4 checks through the night on her. So we'll just keep an eye on her.